Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Mayorga, and it is cold. It's a Sunday, and I decided that I've been thinking about a video that I've been wanting to make, which is on gratitude. And the reason for that is for a while, I have been experiencing not being grateful for what is happening in my life. And my negative attitude began to impact me in a negative way. And I thought about that and I thought, hmm, I need to be a little bit more grateful and have a better gratitude for my life than having this negative attitude, which I saw began to affect my overall well being. And then I began to think about all the things that have been occurring in different parts of the United States with disasters, all the way from California to North Carolina to the north with the biting cold and uh, the weather, the way it's been, and just all sorts of things. Those are just some of the things that I can think off the top of my head. And I thought, how, the importance of gratitude, and do we experience gratitude the way we need to experience gratitude? And so I thought about doing this little video and decided to call it How to Embrace Gratitude. And so I think we know that it's important for us to be grateful for the things that we have and that we receive, and how other people impact our lives in a positive way. But sometimes life can go sideways and we can lose that gratitude. And believe it or not, research shows that it affects our overall well being, it affects our health, and it affects our feelings, it affects everything. And just think, when normally the opposite of gratitude is generally anger, and anger can have a very detrimental impact on our lives. We get angry, we're stressed, our physical well-being will be affected. You can develop high blood pressure, you can develop ulcers, you can develop all sorts of things. So I started, and I know all of this. I know all of this because I have a nursing background, because I've been a therapist for over 20 years, 20, almost 25 years. I've taught this. I'm a counselor educator for about 20 years. So I recognize the importance of gratitude, but I recognize that in my own personal life, I kind of let it slip, and that I began to not kind of like myself because I couldn't think of anything that I was grateful for. And so I started thinking, I think it's important to be reminded. And I think right now there are people that are going through some horrendous things, that are working working toward trying to be grateful for the little things that happen. The fact that we're still alive, the fact that I can get up every morning and thank my higher power for being alive, the fact that let's take, for example, right now it's kind of cold outside. I have a very nice office. I the light is on still. The heater is working. I took a nice hot shower this morning. My pipes didn't freeze. I have food in the refrigerator. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of things that in any time during the day we can be grateful for. Anything from being able to have our sight that we can see outside and enjoy the sunlight or the snow, whichever it is that you like, or that we're sitting at home doing our work because we have a remote job, or you're at the office, and maybe you're tired and it's been a long day, and then someone comes along and says, "Hey, I brought you a cup of coffee," and we're grateful for somebody else thinking about us and giving us something like that. And I think that generally, as human beings, we tend to be that way. We begin to really reflect and begin to be thankful. But I thought it was important because sometimes we kind of lose our gratitude because there's so many things that come our ways and we just can't handle it anymore. And it just becomes too much. And emotionally, we just don't know what to do and we break down. And then that little kernel of gratitude starts to light up again. And then we take time And so these are things that I'm going to talk about, how we can maintain our gratitude and how it is important to be gratitude. So, let's just, I always like to start with a definition that it is important for us to be grateful. And this is something that we want to feel on a daily basis, but sometimes life is just so difficult. And we move away, like I said, from a grateful attitude because life gets messy, hard, it gets difficult, ugly, and so on and so forth. And we can just quickly lose our gratitude for living or for just being alive. So, how do we define gratitude? Okay. Number one, it's a positive emotion that involves being thankful and appreciative. I got up this morning, I sat here at my desk, and I was just thankful that I could sit here at my desk. And what am I going to do later today? And I'm thankful that I can do it. I'm thankful that I can get up. I'm thankful that God gave me life. I'm a spiritual person, and I'm grateful that the sun is out. I'm grateful that I have a coat. There's all these little things. Sometimes we think about being grateful for something humongous, buying a house, buying a car. I'm so grateful. And when in reality, and this is one of the things that I'm going to talk about, is it's in the moment. Whatever is going on in the moment, are you grateful for what's occurring in that moment? To give you the ability to make a good decision, the ability to say thank you, the ability to rationalize, the ability to look at perspectives, the ability, all those things are things that we can be grateful for. And Grateful attitude is also associated with what I said, mental and physical benefits. So we're going to talk about that too. And when we do express gratitude, there's kind of a warm feeling that goes deep inside. I love to travel, but I like to just take day trips. I love to just go out into the hill country and the uh, the scenery is beautiful. And at that moment, while I'm in that car, I'm just so grateful that I have an opportunity to be able to get in the car and go do these scenery drives. And that's all they are, scenery drives. And it makes me feel good. I feel this intense emotion that I have the ability to go out there and appreciate, whether it's deserty, whether there's flowers, whether there's trees. It's just the whole nature thing. And it gives me a lift, and we need to give ourselves these lifts throughout the day. Otherwise, we're going to just crash and go spiral down into a hole and not be able to get out of that. So we need to recognize that good things do happen to us, even if they're in minute little ways. A lot of times we think about something good happening to us, it's got to be tremendous and stupendous and huge and however way, you know. It could be if we're getting married, we're having a party. Recently, I went to out of town to a quinceañera, and everybody was oh so grateful that everybody was there, and it's a great party, and this and that and whatever. And you can look at something like that and say, boy, I'm grateful that we were able to be healthy enough to attend it. Or I'm grateful that the day was good enough so that we could get here and not miss it. And so you see, there's always something, but you have to verbalize it. It's important to verbalize our gratefulness or our gratitude for what's around us, because that permeates everything. It doesn't only permeate for you, it permeates for your surroundings. Okay. And being grateful is very spontaneous. It can be very spontaneous. I remember when I was growing up, I've always been a nature person. I love flowers. I love talking to the flowers. I have a lot of ivies. I love trees. I'm just a nature person. And so my mom used to have a lot of flowers in the garden. I think that's where I got it from. I kind of just love having a butterfly garden and all of that. So I'd go outside and I'd look at all the flowers and I'd be so spontaneously grateful to have these flowers that I could see and I could smell and I could appreciate. And people around me didn't understand. I didn't even understand that I was experiencing gratefulness or that I had gratitude toward having the ability to be around this garden. And I'd run inside and I'd say to everybody, "Oh, it's such a beautiful day." And that was coming from my gratitude to of being able to go out there and enjoy the flowers and the beautiful day. And the people inside the house would say, What's wrong with you? What do you mean? What are you talking about? So gratitude is something that we are taught, and then we have to practice it and let it become a daily part of our lives. Um, I I've not always had remote work. I teach at a university where I do everything online. It's an online program, but I used to live in Nashville, and so I used to work. I used to have to drive to work, and Nashville has a lot of hills and it's beautiful scenery. And man, I was grateful every day for that drive. No matter that there was a lot of traffic, but the drive itself to put me in the nature feeling because it has a lot of trees, has a lot of hills, it has a lot of flowers. It's just got all the things that touch me. And I was always grateful that I would get to work and I could find a parking space. And I was grateful that I could get up early and be able to go there and get a parking space. Uh, and I would it would be facetious for me to believe that we're always going to feel that way. But what we're talking about is cultivating that kind of attitude for gratefulness. We cultivate what we want in our lives, even during those times when we don't want to be that way because things are just getting really bad. But it becomes an innate part of you, and then you can't help but go in that direction. There's been times in my life when I just think, oh, everything just sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. Why is it going this way? Then I'll take a few moments and I'll think, well, it's not that bad. And then I'll begin to cultivate the gratefulness that innately is inside of me because I've made it part of my life. And it does help me go in a different direction. And there are ways that you can cultivate that in your life. I, I've had I've had it both ways. I've had it where I've decided to just be angry about situations, and I'm the most miserable person because anger just doesn't work for me. I don't like being in that position or me putting myself in that position and hanging on to the anger. It doesn't do me any good. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was going through some things and I was doing that, and I recognized that I just didn't like the way my life was going and who I was becoming. And so I thought, well, wait a minute, where's my gratitude? What have I done with it? Did I put it away? And let me pull it out, dust it off, and begin to engage in that kind of behavior. You may think this is silly, but believe it or not, things began to improve. And I did begin to sleep better, and I did begin to do better, and I began to feel better. And so, again, if you believe in energy and what you bring towards yourself and what you put out. And for me, that's a very good example of what happened. I was putting out a lot of negative energy because of whatever was going on in my life at that time. And when I made a decision, it's also about choices. You have to choose to be grateful. You have to choose to engage in gratitude behavior. I began to see the difference. And so that's just my little acknowledgement to you. So at a glance, let's recognize that good things in our lives and the roles that others play in our lives help us engage in positive attitudes. So it's not difficult to practice gratitude. All you have to think about is there's got to be somebody in your life, maybe even a stranger. And one of the things that I try to do, yeah, I was not too long ago, I was on one of those scenic drives, and I love to stop at little towns and do some thrifting. And I stopped at this place that had a little thrift store that was connected to the library of the town. And what they do is the money that they collect from selling things and donations, they give over to the library to keep it stocked. And I'm an avid reader, anything to do with books. I support libraries, I give books, stuff like that. And so when I was paying, the person said, "Oh, do you have a little card? For every so much money that you spend, you get a $10 credit." And I said, "Well, I'm not from around here." I said, "But guess," I said, "but you know what? Pass it forward." And she got so enthusiastic and so grateful that somebody was passing it forward. And so she wrote it down. She says, "Okay, the next person that comes and buys something, I'll pass this on to them." And so somebody has done that for you. You have done that for somebody. And at that moment, you just grateful that you're able to do something to give to somebody else or vice versa. So think about those times that there have been people in your life. Have you ever had that thought? I get this happens a lot to me. Somebody jumps into my mind and I think I'm going to call them. And I call them, and at that moment they say, I was just thinking about you. Or you know that they need something, but they're not going to ask you. So you go ahead and take care of it without waiting for them to ask for it. And those people experience gratitude for somebody doing something for them. So not only are we grateful for what we receive, but grateful that you're able to do it for somebody else. Okay. So here's some things that you can think about. How grateful are you for today? You woke up, you got up, you made yourself a cup of coffee, or maybe a Diet Coke, or whatever it is that you like to do or not do, right? But you're grateful for the beginning of the day. I've got a couple of trips coming up because I do a lot of presentations and conferences. So I've got a conference. I just did a conference here at our university, and I was grateful for people coming to the conference and enjoying the presentation and what they gave back to me, and then what I gave to them. I have one coming up in the beginning of February in Galveston that I'm looking forward to, and it's about a give and take. And I'm grateful for being given an opportunity to present this, and then grateful that people will come in and take what I've got to offer. And then I'm going to Albuquerque, and I'm going to just the whole idea to be grateful to accompany a person that's invited me who she's doing a presentation. And so there's a lot of things on a daily basis that we can be grateful for, that sometimes we just go through life all day long and not take a moment to stop and say I am grateful for. Okay. So another way to experience gratefulness is to stop and observe. Observe your surroundings, acknowledge your surroundings. I acknowledge my office. My office is my little sanctuary. And I set it up that way. It's got pictures of people that I love. It's got sayings that I believe in. It's got chairs that people can come in and sit down. And I'm very, very grateful that I have an opportunity to have this space. And so every time that I walk into this space, I'm grateful that I've been given this opportunity to create this environment for myself, but that I've also created it for others to be able to come in here and sit and fellowship or talk with me or share with me, whatever. It's a grateful situation. I'm grateful that I have a car. I'm grateful. And you get the drift of this. There's many, many things that you're probably going to be grateful for or are grateful for. But sometimes we slip away from that grateful attitude. And then that's when we begin to see ourselves sour in many ways. Okay. The positive influence in your life. Can you think of people that have had a positive influence in your life? I'll share something with you. Um, in my growing up years, my relationship with my mom was not that great. That's teenage years and stuff like that. And when I became a counselor educator and I went to work at my first job, there was a contest that occurred for Mother's Day. And so the whole idea was you could write up the person that has most influenced you in your life for Mother's Day. And I thought about my mom, and I thought about the things that I'd never acknowledged that I had learned from her: resiliency, tenacity, my love of curiosity. And so I wrote that and I won. And I was so very grateful that everything that I wrote in there was true, that I had not even realized it. And after writing that, I began to be grateful to become the woman that I had become because of my mom's influence on me. And it turned out to be great. They called her up, they interviewed her. I took a picture of me with a picture of her. I'm so to this day grateful that I took the opportunity and stopped and glanced around and recognized that there was a lot that was that made me who I was that actually came from my mom. So I was very grateful for being given that opportunity. And then, of course, doing kindness and paying it forward, and then having some kind of a meditative life. If you I work a lot with clients. I'm a believer, but as a counselor, I can't impose my beliefs on anybody. But there, people do have a concept of a higher power, be it Jesus, be it a tree, be it air, be it whatever it is. And so, uh, your meditation can be to whoever you aspire to meditate to, or how you meditate, uh, whether it be a mantra or a type of prayer. But that is important to do in your life as part of being grateful. Okay? So here's a couple of things that you can think about, questions that you can ask yourself to evaluate your experience with gratitude. Uh, do you believe that you have a lot to be grateful for? Sometimes I've talked to people, they don't have anything to be grateful for. They think just life was horrible. I used to work a lot with young people in the juvenile centers. Okay. I would go while they were in detention, and they just thought it was horrible. They had no decision making power, or at least they thought that. And they didn't have anything to be grateful for, and so on and so forth. So I began to point out to them that every day they had a bed to sleep in. Every day they had clothes to put on. Every day they had 3 hot meals to eat. They had a school teacher that came and they had a school class. They had all sorts of things that were occurring even though while they were there. And they weren't thinking about that. They were just thinking that they were there and this was horrible, and so they had nothing to be grateful for. So, and I always think about, if you've ever read the book by Viktor Frankl, or some say Viktor Frankl, but he was a psychologist, doctor, who was during World War II, he was in a concentration camp. And he found that people in a concentration camp survived because they had little things to be grateful for. And it encouraged them to put one foot in front of the other. So it doesn't have to be something, like I've said, huge, like buying a house or buying the car that you've always wanted, or going on this huge trip that you've always wanted to go to. But it's the little things that help you put one foot in front of the other. So that his book, the meaning of, can't remember the title, but if you look it up, his book is an excellent, and it's a tiny little book to read, and it talks about how he was able to make it out of the concentration camp and how he passed that on to the people there. And it was the little things that they were grateful for that gave them the courage to keep going, to leave, to be able to finally leave concentration camp, or during their time there and stuff like that. It's a very powerful book. Okay. And here's another thing too, and it goes along with the different stages of life. But as we get older, are we grateful for the life that we've led and for the life that is coming? There are certain stages that we go through. This is based on some research. But at this stage of the game, when you're past 50, let's say, or 60, you begin to think about your life and how do you want it to end, and where are you wanting to go. And so if we spend our time being ungrateful for everything that's occurred in our lives, we're going to be very unhappy, and we're going to not finish out our lives in a good place. So, are we grateful as we get older for the life that we have led, for what we have, where we've gone, where we've gotten, and how we can continue to make that our life better as we go forward with an attitude of gratitude? And another thing too, gratitude is funny. It can be very spontaneous. I mean, like I was talking about when I would run outside and run back in. Spontaneity is sometimes something that happens for gratitude. You look up in the sky and you see that you can see the sky, or that the sun is shining, or that you just saw a red cardinal. For me, red cardinals are a huge sign that somebody up there loves me. All right, uh, that I always think about that boxing movie where Paul Newman said, "Somebody up there loves me." And so cardinals for me. So when I see a cardinal, I spontaneously feel grateful that I'm alive to see it and that somebody up there uh, loves me. So think about those things, okay? Now, we can also categorize gratitude into three categories, okay? It can have an affect trait, which is really your general disposition. I can look at your face and say she's got a flat affect, meaning you're not showing anything, or you're happy, or you can see that somebody's mad. So it's a general disposition that person has. It can show itself as a mood. It's hard to keep ourselves up here all the time. Moods fluctuate, right? But it's important to think about how the mood is fluctuating. Most people don't recognize this, but uh, you can you can become consciously aware of your moods, and you can figure out what happened to make your mood shift. Did you spiral yourself? For example, maybe you go to work and you're feeling great. 30 minutes later, you're angry and you've not recognized what's going on. So, if you're really consciously aware of your feelings and what's going on around you, you can stop and say, wait a minute, 30 minutes ago I was feeling great. Now I'm angry. What happened? And you retrace your steps and you can pinpoint the moment when things shifted. Okay, with somebody, the way they talked to you, it was maybe they gave you more work, maybe your car started to make a thumping sound, whatever it was. And you recognize at that moment that you allowed something in your life, whatever it was, even if it's minute, to affect your mood and you spiraled. Then, when you recognize that, then you can decide, remember, choices, to go back to this that happened is not going to dump you down here, that you can still be grateful or have an attitude of gratitude because you recognize that your car had a thumping sound and now you need to go ahead and do something about it. And so, again, uh, how we are with our moods can also affect our our attitude toward gratitude. I love that little saying, attitude toward gratitude. And again, another category for attitude is our emotions. They're very brief. They can come and they can go, but they can lift you up or they can bring you down. So, what again? What is the attitude that you have toward that emotion? Uh, I think sometimes we try to negate our emotions, and they impact our attitude. And so we need to be able to understand our emotions and embrace our emotion for that moment, and then it will help things move along better. So here's a couple of things that you can do to improve or engage in gratitude or practice gratitude. There's such a thing as a gratitude journal, or you can buy one at the store where you just flip over every day and it tells you it has a gratitude verse or something like that. But we need to be reminded. We have so many things going on in our lives, so much on our plate that sometimes we don't know how to remind ourselves that this too shall pass, or this, in 6 months you're going to look back, or in 3 weeks you're going to look back, and our attitude's going to have a lot to do with how we're going to view it. Okay. Um, Savor the moment. If you're feeling gratitude right now, just bathe yourself in it. Just be thankful at that moment, and savor it. It's delicious. Gratitude makes us feel fantastic, and it can flow out and touch others. And people will end up coming to you and say, I've had people say, "No, you're always so happy. You never seem to get mad. You're always blah, blah, blah." And that's not true. That's not true. But again, it's a choice. What do I choose to do with this? And then I make that choice. Okay? So create a gratitude ritual every morning. It depends on how you want to. I sit here at my desk and I'm grateful that I'm sitting at my desk, that I got up, that I was able to open up my eyes, that I can make coffee for my hubby, that we're going to go to the movies later, that I'm grateful for whatever. Is it always this way? No, but I pull myself back. I've already shared that a couple of weeks ago I was going through a difficult time, and I just went straight down. But then I recognized I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't want that for me. So I thought, okay, what's missing? Oh, yeah, I stopped being grateful for the little things. And so I took a turn. I made a choice and decided this is what I really want to do. And that's what got me thinking about this video about gratitude. It's an attitude about gratitude. And so my attitude was not being grateful. My attitude was one of anger. And I could see it being destructive for me. And so the final one is give thanks and give thanks again. So this is my video about being grateful, embracing gratitude. And so I hope you enjoy it. And if you did, please subscribe. Thank you.